Do you want to know more about detailing and weathering locomotives? Why don't you stick around and watch this segment, see how we do it on my in-scale model railroad, the Sayre Secondary. Hello everyone, Joe from Central Jersey Conrail and in-scale. Welcome back to the Locomotive Shop. So this time in the Locomotive Shop, we're going to be installing an ESU decoder in an Atlas GP40-2. So before we get started, let's talk about the GP40-2. This unit was a 3,000 horsepower 4-axle locomotive manufactured by the Electromotive division between April of '72 and December of 1986. Now the Dash 2 was an upgrade to the GP40, and the major thing was that there was modular components installed in their electrical system. And this is not really visible to the modeler other than a small oval sight glass on the engineer side of the long hood. Now the Dash 2 was a successful series. They had over 1,143 units produced. However, the numbers weren't as much as the GP40 or the 38-2s. Now, some of the things that I learned about the 40-2 while I was doing the research for this project was that, first off, that it had the 645 E3 16-cylinder prime mover, which is the exact same prime mover for the SD40-2. Now, the SD40-2 is a 6-axle locomotive that is built for heavy freight service, mountain grades and heavy trains. Now, but the big difference between the 40-2, the GP40-2, and the SD40-2 is that the GP was more designed for lightweight, fast service with a high-speed gearing. So it was optimal when it was used for trail van service or high-speed priority merchandise service. So once I found out all that great information on the GP40-2, I went over and looked at Conrail's roster. Conrail had 129 of these units. They were delivered between 1977 and 1980. This was the first group of locomotives that Conrail ordered. What happened was after 1976, Conrail Day 1, Conrail quickly realized that they were in dire need of motive power, and they scraped together some cash early on and placed an order with EMD. The first units were delivered in, I think it was May of '77, with the last units being delivered in late 1980. Now, Conrail did inherit 5 of them from the Reading Railroad, and those were renumbered in Conrail in 3275 through 3279. All the other GP40-2s were delivered from Electromotive. Now, Conrail took a page right out of the Electromotive's catalog and used these units primarily in road freight service for their trail van service and for high priority merchandise trains. So I'm going to try and emulate that with Conrail, and these 2 units, I have been using them in local freight service, which Conrail did later on towards the mid-'80s and late '80s. But here I'm going to try and use it more for a road freight. So I'm going to use it for my through trains or even the train that comes into Brown's Yard from Oak Island. Now the unit we're going to be doing today is number 3372. This one was delivered in May of 1979. I was able actually to find the builder plate number on Conrail's Historical Society, and it was 786191-28. Now this unit I had bought probably about 2 years ago, and it came with a lens decoder. Interesting thing was that we had been using it during op sessions and it had been operating rather well. But over the last couple months, it started acting real quirky. And lo and behold, what I found out was that was actually the lens decoder failing, because within the last 2 or 3 weeks, the decoder wasn't even working anymore. So it's great. We're going to get another sound locomotive, and I'll get a locomotive back up running on the fleet. Okay, so why don't you sit back, watch the video, and I'll talk to you afterwards. Okay, so here we go getting started. We're going to go ahead and disassemble the unit, and then I'll pull out the light board. I'm going to save that lighting skirt to reinstall later. just as with the U25Bs, this install is pretty straightforward. The board fits in perfectly. There's no modifications needed for the frame. You merely just drop in the board, and other than adding the speaker and the LED, it's really no different than a standard decoder. So this time around I decided to use the LED that ESU has provided us. So here I am trimming the leads and going to solder it to the board. You got to trim the leads back to make sure it fits in that lighting skirt. Okay, so now I'm going to put the board in, I'm going to reassemble the frame and use that as a nice stable platform for soldering. Here I am soldering on the speaker leads that they give you inside the ESU packaging, and then I'll connect up our Zemo speaker. This is probably one of the trickiest parts of this whole install, is soldering the speaker. The speaker is magnetic, so it has a tendency to want to stick to your iron. You got to be very careful because you don't want to melt it. So what I've determined is to use a pair of tweezers to hold the speaker and gives enough weight so it doesn't pop up. And then I kind of use my pinky while I'm soldering to hold it. So it's a knack. Once you learn how to do it, it's very easy. So Zemo provides you this nice 3D printed speaker box. I find though that it's too bulky and uses up too much room in the shell. So I like making my own baffles out of 040 plastic, and it has a little stickiness on the speaker so it sticks right to it, and I slide it in and use Capcom tape to hold it all together. They work really well and it provides the good amount of resonance that you need on those little speakers. And then the shell acts as the speaker box itself. Okay, so now we're just buttoning everything up and then using Capcom tape to hold everything in place. So this way the wire leads don't get stuck under the shell when we're putting it back together. Okay, so details wise, all I did was put a cab signal box in. I forwent the antenna because they've become very hard to find, the Sinclair antennas right now. So I'm kind of just overlooking that detail. As for weathering, yeah, I didn't delete it this time, honest, but I had a battery failure on my camera and it erased the footage of the weathering. So this unit was just simply weathered in my normal procedure. I did an overspray of Monoflex sand in the spray booth, and then I used Bragdon weathering powders, and then sealed them up with Tester's dull coat. So since I didn't have any other footage of the weathering, I left a rather long segment in here. This is how I darken in my grills. It's just Monoflex Engine Black with some alcohol, and I dilute it down, and then just let it wick in to these cracks and crevices around the grates. As you can see, I'm kind of just dabbling back and forth between the alcohol and the paint, and just controlling it as I go, and I use a real thin 00 brush. That's how we did it. Okay everyone, so I had a problem with my video capture, so I was going to walk you through how to program this decoder. So we're working on a GP40-2, so if we come to ESU's website, what you can do is when you go to the select retail sound files, you can enter your parameters in here in this search block and hit search, and it'll bring up all of the files that match your search. So what I did is I entered 645E3, which is the style of prime mover that was in the GP40-2, and it comes up with a bunch of sound files that meet that parameter. So if we scroll down and we look for our 16-cylinder, you can see that this pops up here now. That's the 20-cylinder. This one here is 16-cylinder, 645E3 and V2. All right, that's a ESU designation for version 2. So usually what they'll do is they'll produce 2 to 3 or 4, sometimes even more versions of each sound file. So if you come down here, it meets the recommendation for a GP40-2. So what you would do next is scroll on down here. Now this is another thing we need to be aware of. If you look here, they have the value set at 71 for CV48, and that selects the prime mover, the bell, and the horn. And the horn is selected as the RS5T. We're going to need a different horn, so we will change that at a later time. So we'll come down here to download. We will click on the direct micro. We will accept our license. Okay. It downloads. Then we click hit OK. And it opens the project in here. So at this point, this is where I would use the long address. We're going to change the number to 3372. And then I would hit write all decoder data. Also, before I would do that, I would also change my update my firmware. Then once that's done, we're going to go ahead and click write sound data, and then that takes 30 minutes to download. I've already done that, so we'll go to the next step. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to change the value for CV48, and that is your master CV that controls all the different sound functions. The bell, the horn, and the prime mover. So prime mover is going to stay the same. We're going to be that'll be a value of 0. We're going to be using the Leslie RS3L, which is common on Conrail, and if you look, that CV value would be 6. And then I'm going to keep it with CV64 for the EMD brass bell. So what you do is 6 plus 64 equals 70. So we need to change CV48 to 70. So I'm going to go over to my LokProgrammer. and we are going to go to change our CVs. So we're going to go to CV 48, and we want to change that value to 70, and we will write the data. There you go. Now go give it a quick test and make sure the settings took. Okay, so we've finished our GP40-2 project and it's all set to go. So the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to enter it into JMRI and add it to my roster. So first thing what I need to do is go over here to GP40-2 number 3372, and I need to delete that from the roster because that's the old one with the lens decoder. So now we're going to come down here to edit only, and we're going to do new loco. I'm going to scroll down to ESU. And we're going to select direct micro. Alright, new loco entry. It's going to be Conrail GP40-2 number 3372. We're going to use our long address 3372. Open comprehensive programmer. Road name Conrail. 3372. Manufacturer is Atlas. Model is GP40-2. There's nothing else I want to enter into here, and I'm going to save the file. And it is saved. So now we're going to go over here to GP40-2 number 3372. I'm going to select it and click labels and media. Go to the roster here. Open up my folder. Slide this down. 3372. And I'll drag it into the box. And there we go. Now we have our picture. Save it to the roster. And it is saved. I'll close it. Now, just to make sure everything is working properly, I'm going to open a throttle. Yes, I need to steal it because I have it on my other one. And we'll start it up. I don't know if you can hear it from here, but it's starting. And I'll shut it down. I'll release it and close that out. So now I know that all my settings are proper and everything works good. And there you go. So now the entry is made into our roster and is ready for use.
Okay, everyone, so there you go. That's how we did it. Very happy with the way the project came out. Love the way it sounds. That's the beauty of the ESU system, is that they have multiple different versions of the same locomotive. So, you know, and this kind of comes from, even though they produced over 1,000 of these units, you know, each individual unit has its own little quirks, its own little sounds. So ESU provides us with that different versions of the sound files so that you get those little different nuances from each unit. You know, the turbocharger might be a little louder in one unit than the other. So yeah, when you run the two of them together, I have 3385, that's in version 1, and this is now version 2. You can actually hear the subtle differences in the sounds. It's really a great addition and that ESU has done for us. So this time around with the LED for the headlight, I actually just went with the ESU's LED that they provide you in the package. If you cut the leads really short, it's a little bit of a pain to solder onto the board, but it does fit behind the headlight skirt and it fits right in when you put the shell on. Another thing that you may not have picked up on the video is with these Atlas GP40-2s, both of them I've learned, you have to make sure, pay attention to the rear headlight, you have to really trim that back to provide you enough ample room to clear the board. And secondly, you have to slide that speaker as far forward as you can underneath the board, so this way that they sit down. Otherwise, the tail end of that shell is going to be riding up and you're going to have problems with your coupler height. So yeah, just want to point that out, so if you do take on this project, you don't have those issues. Okay, so with all that being said, that's all I have for you this time. If you're seeing this video for the first time and you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the channel because we'd love to have you follow along. And if you haven't done so already, please make sure you check out our Facebook page and Instagram account because I'm always posting daily updates of all the projects we're doing down here. Otherwise, that's all I have for you this time, and I'll see you next time on the Locomotive Shop.